Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of Tea and Coffee with Paula and
Jay. And we're rolling the dice this morning. 30% on the power battery. We should be okay.
Be fine.
We should be fine. We should be able to get to 20, and we don't use that much for the hour. So if we go,
yeah,
then you know why. And we'll be right back. We'll pop up that generator and get going. But good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. Happy Friday, baby.
I realized when we started the show that you guys get to see what I see when I start my day. Paula. First thing you get to see is Paula, just like my day. So I get to see her too.
But he gets to see me without the brushed hair, and yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
you're not a makeup person.
If you think this is brushed hair, but yeah, this is what I call it will pass for brushed hair.
Loose definitions.
Yes, because I don't do makeup. Now, here's credit to people who do. It's an art form. No, the ladies that layer it on and do it, like I've never been able to do that, and I've never had the patience to. So this is me. And maybe if it's a fancy event, you get a little bit of lipstick, a bit of mascara, maybe some eyeshadow if I'm feeling fancy.
You look like Katie Vance then.
Yeah, I love it. The memes are hilarious because they think that's having an impact, and it's not. It's just ignore it.
But as they say, one of your first dates is go swimming, so you can see what you're looking at.
Take your woman swimming for her first date, because you got to see that face clean, because it is like night and day. Some of these women with and without the makeup. And there's a story from a few years ago now, but where there's a Lebanese wedding. The husband divorced the wife, went to divorce the wife the very next day because that was the first time he saw her without makeup, and it's like my goodness, that's not you. And he divorced her.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, also because, here's the thing. You also picture the person you're going to marry like, hey, this is the kids we're going to make. And when you realize that that's really not what your woman looks like, well, no, that's not what you signed up for. And maybe you don't want your kids to look like that either.
What if I had 3-inch boosters in my shoes? Would that change anything?
3-inch. Oh, so I never saw you barefoot, and then after the wedding, that's when I just got to see you without shoes. Well, 3 inches would still be fine because you're 8 inches taller than me, so it still works.
What if I was on stilts and you couldn't tell?
Jeez, my gosh. Some of the extreme scenarios that Jason comes up with over the course of our marriage and life together has been hilarious. Fingertip. Nails and feelers.
Okay, if you have a woman that likes to scratch, like mine does, she likes to scratch. She likes to get down to bone, and she just doesn't realize. She doesn't realize how hard she's pushing on the scratching. And I don't mean in particular moments, just randomly she'll scratch me and it'll hurt. But I came up with the idea that I got to get her a little fingertip or nail tip feeler so that she can feel how much pressure she's putting on. And then I can sell it to the robot people, and we can make a lot of money. Goodness. And then she laughed at me.
Yes, I did, and I still do to this day. And my days of long nails are gone, because once you have kids and you use your hands more often, you just can't grow them. When I see,
bet you Wilbur is why you got rid of them.
Oh my
God! Did it for him. Him.
He's so jealous of the pig. Not really, but yeah.
No,
yeah.
Really. She spends a lot more time with the pig. And where's mom? Oh, with the pig, him.
Well, the cool thing is now that, because again, we're just keeping him in the area, making sure he learns his boundaries, is I'm doing a lot more work outside, which is nice, especially during this fall weather. It's really, really been nice here in the Breton area. So I'm sitting out, and you'll find we have a square garden table where we can sit, and all the chairs are basically pointing in a different position, because when I see him move, I'll just get up with the laptop, go and sit in a different chair so I can watch him. But the kids, we've been doing more stuff outside, so we're really enjoying working in the fall weather, which is nice. Make the most of it.
I'll build a turntable. I'll put your chair on. There'll be a camera, and it will follow him so you can turn. See, he laughs, but I can help.
You can. Oh, for sure. I have no doubt my husband could achieve that.
But good morning, everybody. I know you were just waiting this morning to hear about all of those details. And if you think the fingernail feeler is something that we should market and put out there,
patent pending.
Maybe. But yeah, we have a lot of weird fun.
Oh yeah, I think look, every couple behind closed doors, in front of the open doors, we have lots of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's what kept it 20 years and going strong. So, folks, we didn't get much done around the property, kind of getting ready for that tour, getting our signs ready,
Mhm.
getting for the campaign, putting some more effort there. So, not a big update on the property. Did we do anything yesterday? Took the garbage out.
Yeah, did a dump run. No, not really. I mean, I did stuff, but just nothing on the homestead wise.
But in my brain, I did because
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
plan things out. I spend a lot of time thinking about it so that I make sure I have all the tools and parts and pieces. So, the generator and the septic are next, and then the heat. Then we
Mhm.
should kind of wrap up on the big projects.
Yeah, I think so. And we can either get started today or the weekend. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, then are you gonna take our young man to the show in Warwick tomorrow?
Possibly. So Warburg Gun Show,
Mhm.
likely probably going to swing by there. We're trying to get a table for it so we can
Mhm.
say hi to our neighbors. I'm also trying to nail down because the Canada Post strike has kind of put a
Mm.
damper on our campaign plans to deliver flyers and mailers and stuff like that. I'm currently working on trying to isolate where all the addresses are, make a list, and start knocking on doors.
Yeah,
So I'm working on that.
yeah. I think either this weekend, but certainly next weekend's a great opportunity to hit the road, the Brazo and Breton Road.
I'm sent, so just kind of spent some time there. So the property's taking a small backseat to some of
Mhm.
that work, but we are multitasking. And then our tour. So the poster should be done today. I
Yay.
should have the tickets available probably by sometime today.
Oh,
And we'll
fantastic.
start pushing that out. We got all our guests lined up. We
Mhm.
got the tickets, I think,
Yeah,
purchased.
flights have been booked. Flights have been booked. They're gonna be flying in from Ontario, and yeah, looking forward to seeing I think other than I didn't meet Dean, but I've been fortunate enough to meet, Dr. Shoemaker and, Dr. Speaker before, so it'll be
You
good
did
to
meet
meet
Dean
them.
on the show. He did show up
Sure, yeah,
early
but
morning, but
not, in person.
yeah. So he doesn't know that you have the fingernail issue, does he? You scratch. Okay, so we'll get on that. So stay tuned. Starting probably tonight, you'll be able to get your
Yeah,
tickets.
get your tickets, folks.
Yeah, and the reason why we have to do that is because the venue cost, the flying cost, getting the people out here.
Mhm.
It's not a for-profit thing.
And it's gonna be a modest amount anyway, and I think people expect if you're gonna be going for a few hours to see these great men and watch some good documentaries, there should be a cost for it.
Sure, yeah,
Mm,
because to cover some of the
yeah.
costs. And to remind you what it is, it's the untold story of Sean Hartman, which is a documentary we're working on. Several good people have provided interviews for it. We putting that together. It's going to be our first, basically, feature length documentary that the Levine Show has worked on.
Mhm.
And thanks to the people who supplied some of the funding and equipment for that. And of course, Dan Hartman for his time. And I'm not going to spoil the surprise of all the
Mhm.
different people who are in there, but there's some good people who've offered up their time to be part of that documentary, give their opinion on what happened to Sean,
Mhm.
medical, even from the sports world. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Wonderful.
And we'll premiere it in Edmonton on the 17th, Friday.
Mhm.
You can catch it in Red Deer on the Saturday, the
Yep.
18th, and down in Calgary on the 19th. You can
Mhm.
watch it there. And then when we're done those premieres, then we'll post it for the rest of the world to go ahead and take a peek at it. So if you want to watch it for the first time and you're
Mhm.
near one of those three areas of Alberta, come. And it's Dr. Shoemaker, Dr. Speaker, Dr. Hodgkinson,
Mhm.
which you met, of course,
Yes.
and then Dean Rainey. So we'll be doing both his movie, Why Can't We Talk About This, along with our movie. So you'll
Mhm.
get a double feature. Plus, you can meet all four of those gentlemen, and we'll be there.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yep. So stay tuned for that. We would really appreciate seeing you guys all in person on that one.
Yep.
Okay, I think we have the lights a little high. I'm just going to push a magic button and hopefully that doesn't kill the batteries.
Vroom.
All right, let's jump into the news because there is a lot. We got Leighton Grey today, so I'm looking forward to that.
Mhm.
Let's go and pop this up on the screen. Good morning to X. So if you're not following us on X, what's wrong? Why not?
Pourquoi?
Jason Levine, AB. You can find me. I do a lot of posting, following the news, creating some information for you to consume, especially lately around the ostriches, the expert opinions, the reports,
Mhm.
putting it out there, digging into things like the funding, the research that was happening there, because CBC and the mainstream media is completely ignoring all of those parts of it. They are relevant, and it might actually
Mhm.
paint a bigger picture
Yeah.
because we're not really sure why they're so gung ho oh, maybe a bad pun there, to end these ostriches, but there may be something bigger than just they recovered from avian flu. So go ahead and watch or follow us on X. And Paula is Team Patch. So PAJ for Paula and Jay, Team Paula
Ding,
and
ding,
Jay.
ding.
There she is. You can go follow her. She does some moderate posting, not so much, but she go give her a follow. I
Sure.
did 20 years ago. Started following her. Borderline.
Stalker!
Actually, you were the stalker.
I was. I'm the one who found you at the end of the night.
You did.
Or early in
Well,
the morning.
I introduced you to the bottle of water and said hi, and then I left you, and then you hunted me down.
Yes.
Made sure I left with that little piece of paper that said Paula at Docs.
Yep.
Yep. Because there's so many Paulas in my life. I needed to put at Docs, right? Wiretaps at it again. Canadian Anti-Hate Network claims Antifa is simply an ideology, but investigative journalist Andy No claims they operate like radical Islam and hide behind the Constitution. This is something we've known for a long time. We had Vlad on, and Antifa has been around way before even Trudeau. They just kind of been propped up over the last 11 years or so by the Liberal government through funding of other organizations like the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Antifa is real. It's very real.
Yeah.
It may be a ideology or a movement, but the people behind it, there are websites, there are organizations, there are local chapters, and they actually get out there and cause harm. So I just mentioned these are facts. So go ahead and check out Andy No. He's quite the reporter down in the US, and he's in the know.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. This one's really bothers me. So yeah, I'm going to play this video for you because you got to hear what it said here, because this is absolutely insane that this is a real human being. But I don't believe this person's alone. I think a lot of people feel this way. So let's go ahead and play this.
Still human beings.
So you don't care if they're the worst criminal in the world and they have raped and murdered children. They're okay and they're still human beings and they should be here?
I believe that they are human beings and that they deserve dignity just as everybody else.
You think child rapists deserve dignity?
Absolutely, I do.
Still
I don't. To be very clear, I don't. This is exactly what we've been warning you all about when you start getting into these ideology, sexualization of children. There's some sick people out there. There've always been sick people out there that harm children. But now they're starting to get so bold that they're saying, yeah, no, they deserve dignity and they're human beings. I don't mind the part of they're human beings. Okay. But they're sick.
Yeah, that's the thing. People may argue, oh, it's not very Christian of you. No. There's the recognition of, yes, that's a human life. Sure. But you also recognize the sin that they commit. And we're not perfect. But so recognizing that and not just washing over it, oh, we all deserve dignity. There are some people that are bad. And those who affect and assault children are one of the worst, in my opinion.
And this person probably would say Republicans or conservatives don't deserve dignity. Like they would have certain groups that they certainly think don't deserve their dignity. And if anybody harmed that person directly or anybody that person loves, they absolutely would change their opinion. This is disgusting.
Yeah.
So my post is, this is a hard no. People who harm children do not deserve dignity. Society is being groomed to accept pedophilia. So here's a list of things that you should be familiar with that's going on. Minor attracted persons, lowering of age of consent, sexualization in elementary, radicalization of children's programming, protection of predators. This needs to stop. Because that's exactly what this woman's doing. She's basically protecting them and telling them, no, you're fine. You deserve dignity. We should treat you nice, even if you've done some of the worst things humans can do to humans. Absolutely not. This is a hard no. So that's what bothered me, because it was yesterday morning right after breakfast. It popped up on my feed. I'm like, no, this is not the slope that we're going to continue to slide down. This has got to stop. Okay. Daisy, he booked his flight to go to the Universal Ostrich Farm. So
Great.
Thank you to everybody who has contributed. He certainly still needs a little bit of assistance there, because he's going to have costs while he's there. So daisymedia@gmail.com. Every little bit helps. But he is booked. He's going there. He's bringing a telescopic, high quality camera with him, and he's going to do his best to give us some interviews and some exclusives and get them on the show. So stay tuned as he's, I think, landing Saturday, and we should start seeing him. Yeah, there you go, Saturday. And we should start seeing him posting like immediately.
Yeah.
like immediately. And today is the deadline for the filing of the respondents for the Supreme Court of Canada application. October 3rd was their deadline. So they have to respond today if they haven't already. And then the applicants will have 2 days to file their paperwork. So that could mean by the end of day Tuesday will
Yeah.
be the end of all deadlines. And then maybe we'll hear from the Supreme Court maybe next week, late next week, on whether or not they're going to hear this case.
Mhm. And every passing day, those ostriches are still alive.
Still alive.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of concern on whether or not they're being harmed.
Or
Weekend,
quality of care and things like that.
stressed, weekend, all that kind of stuff. Here's one of the posts that I did, caught some attention because we're doing some of the research into what's going on here, and I'm using nothing but public sources on this. The Universal Ostrich Farm update, what the record shows about the COVID research, the $13.44 million grant, and the farm's participation. I'll quickly scan through this for you. So COVID-19 antibody research was underway in Sherbrooke, Quebec. The Canadian biotech firm Immune Biosolutions in Sherbrooke ran a COVID-19 immunotherapy program, antibody-based, moving from preclinical towards clinical development. Basically, what that means is treatment of COVID outside the body and also helping by using antibodies. So this was looking into the feasibility of masks being infused with antibodies and how they can catch it as a filter. There was a peer-reviewed study out of Japan, and I may create another post that dives into that a little bit more. But a peer-reviewed study in Japan prior to COVID. This was after SARS-CoV-1, the one that hit Toronto on the west coast of U.S., where many people died. A lot of research was put into it after that fact. So this is a continuation, and the Canadian government got involved. So Ottawa, and this would have been Trudeau's government, funded the program with a Strategic Innovation Fund award. The Government of Canada confirms up to $13.44 million to Immune Biosolutions to help develop and advance its therapeutic candidate from preclinical studies through to phase 2 clinical trials. So government backed. The reason why I'm putting this together like this is some people are saying this farm is just some people who are just trying to, become researchers and experiments, and they're trying to save the birds by making these claims, and it's all fake, and it's not fake at all. The Universal Ostrich Farm says about its involvement, UOF has publicly stated it collaborated with Immune Biosolutions, describing provisions of antibody work, but also says the collaboration was abruptly terminated. And again, all of these have sources, so you can go and read them yourself. Reporting in the TI?
Where are you?
Right here.
I think T.
T also quotes the UOF representative stating that the farm collaborated with Immune Biosolutions in 2021 and that the relationship ceased thereafter. Source. How it ended, UOF's statement and related posts indicate that the collaboration was halted and that Immune Biosolutions retained some of the effective antibodies from the project. These are UOF's claims. They are not independently corroborated by company press or government documents. I searched and searched and searched to figure out why they ended this, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing available for that. The bottom line, the Universal Ostrich Farm was not a rogue experiment. Public records and statements show it was reported to be working with Immune Biosolutions in Sherbrooke, Quebec. The biotech company received $13.44 million from Canada's Strategic Innovation Fund to develop COVID-19 immunotherapies. The farm has said it participated in the research effort, providing ostrich antibodies as part of the government-backed program, exploring new treatments for Canadians, while the grant money went directly to Immune Biosolutions, not the farm. UOF has publicly stated it was involved as a contractor and that the collaboration was terminated in 2025 with no payments received. This all occurred prior to the CFIA detecting H5N1 on the farm in December 2024. Oh, apologies. This is actually 2024, not 2025, when it was terminated. So I got a typo there. So this is 2024, like March 2024. And it all occurred prior to detecting H5N1 on the farm in December 2024. According to the farm, the collaboration with Immune Biosolutions will not formally terminate until 2024. So typo there, my bad. By the time the CFIA moved in, the research relationship had already been severed. A flock once tied to government-backed COVID research program is now treated solely as a disease risk. The contradiction deserves scrutiny. So again, you can tell I'm not using AI because I made a couple errors. But yeah, so it was before they found H5N1 that the collaboration was terminated. So sorry about that typo. But you can kind of see the timeline. They were part of a project, lots of money put behind it. This was to find treatment that didn't require a vaccine.
Yeah.
So this is pre-infection treatment. So hopefully you don't get infected is what the work was being done here. And then suddenly they were terminated. And then the government comes in and finds H5N1 and wants to destroy all the birds. So interesting timeline there. And I'm going to keep digging into that some more, especially around the research about the masks being infused with antibodies. I think it's important that that's added to the conversation. All right, so Glenn Beck had Keith Wilson on to talk about Alberta's independence, talking about the delegation that went down to the U.S. to have more conversations with the State Department. That's Marco Rubio's department. I'm not sure how high up they went, but it's certainly high up. And I do know that the first delegation, it was a commitment made to speak to Marco directly. So that could be what happened this time around. To the people out there that think Danielle Smith went to this and is attacking her, she didn't. She didn't go. This wasn't part of Danielle Smith. This was the Alberta Prosperity Project team going down there. So that's Jeffrey Rath, Keith Wilson. We've got Mitch Sylvester, Dennis Modry, and that's basically the core of the team. And I'm sure a couple more people went down, but I have to confirm that. But Glenn Beck is talking about it with Keith Wilson. And then I can also confirm that it is true. There's been more than one meeting, and it's clear the U.S. is preparing to support Alberta's independence if the people vote for it. This is something Quebec didn't have in 1995 under President Bill Clinton. The White House was calling Quebec's referendum a crisis. Now in 2025, the White House thinks it's a reasonable path forward. Thank you to Keith Wilson for taking the time to explain the delegation and why many Albertans are considering a change. And also some more confusion around this because people just simply don't read. They think that this is a 51st state thing, that U.S. is agreeing and Albertans are agreeing to become the 51st state. That is not that at all. One of the paths to independence is to be recognized by another country if you voted for it and maybe your host country like Canada isn't recognizing it. One of the ways to move international ways to move forward is to be recognized by a country, and the U.S. has already signaled that they would do that. This has nothing to do about being a 51st state, annexing, or anything along those lines. So those narratives are false if you see them out there. This is simply one of the paths forward. Get the petition, get the referendum, come back with a yes. These are all steps that have to happen. And if that happens and Ottawa is not participating in good faith through the Clarity Act, this is another way to get it done. So we're not stuck. All right. And now we can see our handsome guest, and we'll be with you shortly, my friend. For immediate public release, this was September 25th, 2025. That date's correct. Sorry about that other date error. Expert calls for preservation of universal ostrich farm flock. So again, our good friend, Dr. Stephen Pellich. Am I getting it right?
I don't. We got to just recheck the video how he introduces himself.
Pellich, and it is now. He can change it. PhD, a professor of medicine at the University of British Columbia and president of Kinetics Bioinformatics, has released an opinion challenging the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's plan to cull the nearly 400 ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC. Key opinions are: the birds are healthy. Only 15% of the flock died following an H5N1 detection in December 2024 versus an expected 85% death rate. The survivors remain healthy 9 months later, showing natural immunity. Okay, so pause here. And some people have been pushing back and said, well, they actually had a very strong version of H5N1, like a very lethal version, but they didn't die.
Exactly.
That actually helps the case more that these birds were immune to even what the media is calling
Yeah.
an extreme strain of H5N1. All the more reason to take a look at how did they survive then.
Yeah, when 85% was expected to
Die, but
and only 50
85% lived.
exactly.
Yeah. So these are right there, like stop the press.
Mhm.
At least research
And
these
literally
birds.
stop the press.
That was bad. At least research these. Okay, so but he continues. Scientific value. Ostrich eggs contain large quantities of antibodies. Dr. Pellich confirms H5N1 antibodies in their yolks, making the flock uniquely valuable for biomedical research. So I'll pause here. $2.5 million by the BC government to do exactly this. Avian flu research. How can
Mhm.
you protect the flocks? Because over 8 million birds were put down
Yeah.
in BC alone, 14 million across the country alone. And I got to also look into another piece of information. Probably do this for you guys today. But it looks like the U.S. has stopped culling birds due to avian flu. So I'm going to look into that.
Mhm.
The U.S. itself, the largest market south, there's no border control for birds. So they cross the borders all the time. In fact, our geese go down and then they come back. They're not doing this kind of stuff. So why is Canada still
Yeah, so
doing this
double
kind of-
check because you made that comment yesterday, and then someone in the chat saying no, they're still culling. So yeah,
Yeah,
investigation.
I'm going to investigate it more because a couple of people reached out
Mhm.
and said that. So I'm going to take a look at that. At least not to call this flock has
Mhm.
been made by the U.S. So international interest, here we go again. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has formally requested that Canada preserve the flock for its research potential. But Canada is ignoring its counterpart south, who says we should be looking at these birds, seeing why they survived. There is some research value here.
Mhm.
Next one, policy versus science. CFIA stamping out policy ignores scientific evidence that these birds are no longer a disease risk and represent a rare chance to study natural immunity to avian influenza. Again, the BC program, 2.5 million, is for exactly that.
Yeah.
So they should be part of that study at least. And then, quote, at least the U.S. government recognizes their worth. It is now time for Canada's Minister of Agriculture to step in and prevent the unwarranted execution of this valuable flock, said Dr. Pellich. And the 4-page opinion is all here. Scientific arguments for preservation of the universal ostrich farms birds, September 25th, 2025 is attached below. So read it yourself. And I'm still working on getting Dr. Bridle's
Yeah.
expert report. If you follow that situation, it's pretty dire for him. We've got a couple more minutes here before we bring on our great guest. Important message from Honorable Brian Peckford and Ted Kuntz. So he's from the NCI. He does a lot of work in the Freedom, and you should know who Brian Peckford is by now. But Dr. Roger Hodkinson, he's one of the first who stood up really strongly against what was going on from a doctor's perspective when it came to COVID and how wrong it was. We now know how right he was. But as a consequence, his entire practice has been destroyed by the government. He has a need for some support. So go ahead and we'll read through this from Brian Peckford and Ted Kuntz, but you can also go find and give support at support Dr. Hodgkinson on Give Send Go. There's the picture.
And I'll pop it in the chat now.
Yeah, and every little bit helps. We know them well, and it definitely is a tough situation for them right now. And if you can, please do. Boy, it seems like we're asking a lot of people to contribute, but that's because the government has made it difficult for them. Alan Martin, we've had him on the show during the Dan Hartman fundraiser. He lost his 18-year-old daughter to Pfizer, and there's a lot of people pretty upset that RFK Jr. was standing behind the CEO of Pfizer the other day, and the Trump administration awarded a $70 billion contract to them. A lot of people are upset because that's an about to turn for RFK for sure. He was supposed to go in there. He had some harsh things to say about Pfizer, but now he's not. So Alan has highlighted that. We use Starlink. So if you want to get on to Starlink, we use it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we kind of just put it out there. My interview with Viva Fry yesterday was fantastic. We jumped into how Polyev is not speaking up. We really need to have a lot more opposition, at least speak up about it. Don't wait for decisions from the Supreme Court and it'll be too late then. So get involved now. And I was asked by somebody, well, what is it that he can, why do you guys keep picking on Polyev was one of the comments. Like, why do you keep making it about him? Well, he's the leader of the official opposition of the
Yeah.
government. He's not opposing the government. It's in his title. He needs to be
Yeah.
opposing the
Maybe
government.
tell me I know.
And you're making it all about
Yeah.
Paula Jay if you think that's all we spoke about. There's a lot in there. So, Viva, thank you very much for your time. And then our guest today is Leighton Grey. He's the host of Grey Matter podcast and the author of Lies, Laws, and Liberties.
Right there.
Got it right here. Got it right here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and grab the screen and let's bring the man himself on. One of my favorite
Morning, Leighton.
people.
Good morning.
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was just yeah.
It exists. It exists. It's out, man. How many books do you have now?
Well, we have just the one right now. We've got enough material for several more volumes, but we're going to see how this one goes. The response has been really great so far. So thank you for buying the book. I was actually going to send you a signed copy because you did as much for me when your book came out. But thanks for having me on to talk about it and really anything else. I was actually listening before I came on to some of those stories that kind of touched my own heart. One of them is Dr. Roger Hodkinson, who's a great friend of mine, and so I'm close to his situation, and really a wonderful man, courageous man who did so much for all of us. And so I hope people will respond favorably to that pledge, or will pledge support for him. And the other thing is that ostrich case, Jason. I was actually I got a call to consult on that, and I couldn't help because it's, first of all, it's outside the scope of my practice, but also it's appellate work, which I don't do. But I asked them, I said, where's PETA? And where's the people for the ethical treatment of animals? And if anybody ever wondered whether PETA was actually interested in the protection of animals, here's the test case. Here's the litmus test, but whether or not PETA is a political organization, because they don't care a whit about these poor ostriches, because, of course, the people trying to kill the ostriches are aligned with, politically, with PETA, who are very clearly on the left, are a Marxist organization, an NGO being funded by government. So if anybody's out there supporting PETA, you shouldn't be near anything called PETA unless it's bread. But anyway, thanks for having me on to talk about the book.
It's always our pleasure. And just to be clear, this is Paula's copy. I'm still waiting for mine.
Oh,
yours, one, that's fine.
Consider it done. But of course, this is Canada, where we're a banana republic. This doesn't have a functioning postal service, so I'll have to send it to you via courier, Jason. But I'm happy to do so.
Oh, no. I'll come see you soon. There's an interview I want to get from you, so don't courier it. We'll make it happen sometime in the near future. But I really appreciate that. You
should come. I'd be happy to have both of you, actually, if you want to come up to Cold Lake, into the Great White North. It's a beautiful community. It's wonderful this time of year with the fall colors.
Yeah, it might have to be after the municipal election because we're both running. So we're going to be on the campaign trail knocking on doors. So maybe on the 21st, as a bit of a way to relax after a very busy month, we'll come and say hi to you and enjoy your hospitality.
Well, I'm going to call you by the traditional term of alderman, which I think we should have kept. I really like that. But yeah, good luck to both of you. I hope that you're both successful in your bid for municipal politics.
Yeah, Paula's already busy. She met with the principal of the school yesterday. She met with the previous trustee because she's retiring. She's not going to run again. Got endorsed by her. So Paula's already out there making change and learning so that she can be ready to go.
No, yeah, exactly.
So it'll be an interesting campaign.
Well, it's great that you're getting involved. It sets a great example to other people. And I always tell people, the most important level of government is the one that's closest to your door. And we often ignore this. Municipal politics, if you actually look practically at your life, what's your municipal government actually affects your life a lot more than the people in Ottawa in a lot of ways. And so we ignore that, but it's vitally important that we get really good people in local government because they do affect your life greatly. If you think of, for example, school boards and property taxes and, levies, fixing of roads. I mean, a lot of the stuff that impacts people is in that municipal government level. But unfortunately, people don't realize this enough. But I think it's hugely important to get great people in municipal government. So I'm glad that you're both running.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep fighting for our community in every way we can, whether we contribute our time at the church or right there in politics as well, because it's very
Yeah.
important to us. This is where we live, this is where our children are going to grow
Yeah.
up. And we definitely don't want government overreach and issues on that kind of level. And you're right, municipal is where most of our day-to-day is. Do you want that snow moved? What about dust control? You need the road paved? You want to destroy your shocks on your car over and over again?
Yeah, you want to push for better funding for your school? Yeah, because it was an eye-opening interaction I had with the principal, finding out how they had to do extracurricular fundraising for their breakfast club, because that was not something
Yeah.
they received from school boards. And my
Yeah.
pledge to them was like, should I be elected, I will happily support, not only advocate for them to try and get more funding, but I'll also be there when they need to do the public fundraising.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Go
Our
ahead.
federal government obviously realizes the importance of municipal governments because, as you know, they've been trying to infiltrate municipal governments to the point where our premier, about a year and a half ago, actually, they brought in legislation telling the federal government to butt out because, of course, municipalities are under exclusive provincial authority. This means nothing to the current government we have in Ottawa, of course, but think of rezoning. What's happening in Edmonton with 15-minute cities? I was in Edmonton recently for a speaking engagement talking about this, and so the federal government's trying to infiltrate and control municipal government. And so they certainly realize how vitally important municipal government is. It's so important to have really good people there. Also, on things like school boards and library boards, it's so important to have good people there, because when the good people aren't on those boards, the baddies always show up.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, people, go and look at who's on your school library boards. If you want to wonder why all those books that you don't like are in your school libraries, go and look at who's on the library board, and that pretty much explains it.
yeah, and sometimes it's only like one or two of the baddies, but they have such bullying
Yeah.
power that they can bully the rest and scare the rest. And
Yeah,
you must be transphobic, or you hate people, or you want
Yeah.
children to die. Like, it only doesn't take many to control
Sure.
that group. So we need strong
Yeah.
voices on there like Paula.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So
Now
bravo
you're-
to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, maybe when we come visit you, she may be a trustee and I may be a counselor. We'll see. I don't know if that gives us any favors or special anything when we come visit you, but we may be carrying those duties with us as well.
Great.
Lives, Laws, and the Liberties.
Right.
Why'd you write this book?
Well, it won't surprise you to learn this, but I started writing during COVID, kind of out of frustration, seeing what was happening, and really, it's a call to action, or it tries to be, and the goal is to do two things. One, many people are doing that, is trying to awaken Canadians to some of the challenges to liberty that are being done through the misappropriation and misuse of law, and through the destruction of liberties. And of course, anybody who lived through COVID, or who sees bills like Bill C9, can understand what's happening in this country. So it tries to do that. But the other thing that it does, that perhaps more importantly, is it tries to see these problems and these challenges through a Christian conservative lens. And then it tries to answer the question, perhaps the most important question is, okay, so what can we do about it? And so that's really the goal of the book, is to make people aware of the insidiousness of some of these laws that are impacting our liberties, and to explain how and why they are lies, and why they have to be opposed at all events, and also to make people understand, that there's a cost to this. And talking about someone like Dr. Roger Hodkinson, who, by the way, he shared with me recently, he's just had a spiritual awakening. Roger had always been, we had some very interesting conversations. Roger is an agnostic. As you know, I'm nothing of the kind. I'm a Bible thumping lawyer, but we had great conversations about faith. And recently Roger has had, he's had a change in his heart, and God has blessed him. And he's come to faith, which is really a beautiful thing. I wish I could say that was because he read my book, But but that's not true. But it's my hope that the book will achieve that. That will, as I say, awaken people to some of the things that are going on. I should warn people. I was talking to my law partner, Hart Spencer, yesterday, who's a brilliant guy, and he said, Leighton, your book's not easy to read, and so it isn't that. And it certainly isn't Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson. It's not a deep intellectual tract, but it is written sort of in a journalistic voice, and it does try to get into the depths of some of the issues that are facing us. For example, things like climate change, things like mass immigration, things like demoralization of our institutions, which we were just talking about, municipal government and schools and libraries, and also churches. So it gets into those areas. It does tackle some, transgender ideology and how that's being weaponized. And also it talks about the sort of judicial activism that has taken over our legal system that I know you talk about a lot, Jason, in your work. So it raises these issues, but then it also talks about faith and how faith can guide you through these sort of treacherous waters that will cause you to be despondent and feel powerless and be filled with despair. But actually, there's another way to look at these things, and that is to try and see what God has in store for us on the other side. If we persevere and we have hope, we have faith, that we can actually take action and make a difference in our communities, the way you two are trying to do, getting involved in municipal government. That's one of the things that I recommend to people in terms of personal activism in the book. Everybody, the real message of the book is that everybody is made, we're all made in the image of God. We're all special. We all have something unique to offer. What I've done with this book is it's my offering. It's something that I can do with my skills. I'm a communicator, or at least I try to be. And so those are my skills, but other people have skills that I don't have that are just as important, just as valuable. And the point is, everybody has something really important to offer to their families, to their communities, to their province, to their country. And the more we realize this, the more we can actually take action against these lies, because what we're really in is a spiritual battle between good and evil, and between lies and truth. And so the purpose of the book is to make people keenly aware of that, and then spur them into action and give them some ideas about what they can do to take action and make a difference.
I love that. I love how you're kind of putting it all together with family, with responsibility. And chapter 12 is very, very timely right now. Speechless.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'll share the quote you put in here. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. That's George Orwell from Animal Farm.
Yeah.
And with
Mhm.
Bill C8 and C9 and
Mhm.
other attacks on our speech, this is timely, because this is exactly
Yes.
what we're seeing happen. So what are your thoughts about Bill C8, C9, and Carney's current attempt to censor us?
Well, yeah, this is really the question of the day, isn't it? Because what we've seen since Justin Trudeau came to power, we've just gone through an awful anniversary. We're about to the 10-year anniversary of Justin Trudeau, the most vile person who ever occupied the Prime Minister's office in our country. I think it's an embarrassment and really a shame upon our country that we would elect such a man 3 times in 6 years. But since he came into office, we've had a progression of restriction of our cherished liberties. We've seen increasing corruption in government, almost now to the point of the theater of the absurd. We have a government that doesn't even think they have to table a budget. A government that thinks that they can tell us what is permissible speech. They're going to tell us what truth is, what a lie is, and what hate speech is, whatever that is. And of course, in the backdrop to this, sort of flashing a mirror at us, is what's happening in the United States, where they're having a revival, a Christian revival, and of course the flashpoint for that was the dreadful Charlie Kirk assassination. I think it's a gross understatement to say that Charlie Kirk died for free speech. That would be like saying that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was just a political murder. It kind of misses the point. Charlie Kirk, his death is a reminder of the value of truth and why it's so important to be able to speak it, and also the cost of doing it. And so that particular essay, Speechless, it highlights the importance of speech and the essence of it. And again, you're talking about Charlie Kirk. We see he was quoted. Well, of course, he's very quotable. One of the things he said is, "Violence begins where speech ends." That's a great way of putting it. And of course, his death proved that. And so the essay Speechless asked the question, well, what is the real purpose of free speech? Well, free speech, or the legal protection of it, is designed to protect offensive speech. It's designed to protect the very speech that the government wants to ban in our country through these laws. Because if you and I, even in this conversation, this format, if we can't have a conversation where I could risk offending you with my ideas, then I can't challenge your ideas, can I? And by the same token, if I don't listen to you, my ideas can't be challenged. And this is the whole purpose of open discourse. There's a great tract on this by John Milton that he wrote in 1651 called Areopagitica. It shouldn't surprise people to understand that in the 17th century, jolly old England was going through this very debate back then. And so he was writing about it in his own time. And he said, what I just said, that is that the only speech that needs protection is offensive speech, speech that can offend. Well, why do we have speech that offends? Well, because the purpose of speech, and this is what I talk about in an essay, the real purpose of it is to be able to allow people like us to solve problems, to work things out peacefully. And because if we can't have that speech, then Charlie Kirk is right. When speech ends, violence begins. And we're seeing this play out on the world stage, aren't we? And all around the world, where, instead of speech, we have violence. And so, unfortunately, what this government in Ottawa is doing is what totalitarian governments have ever done. And that is they're telling us that our speech is violence, right? Which is, of course, a lie. The truth is, speech is not violence. There are limits to free speech, but they cannot be set by government. They have to be set by our own sense of our own moral compass. And as free agents, we have to be able to determine on our own what those limits are. We have to be free to do that. That's the essence of free speech, hence the term. If our speech is limited, then of course, that defeats the purpose. Of course, where speech goes too far, for example, inciting to violence and things of that nature, then we have our courts to sort that out, to solve those types of problems. But what these laws are really aimed at is destroying the concept of free speech, and thereby to incite violence. That will cause us to become a more violent society, and this has been historically proven. States where there is no free speech are inherently violent, and most often that violence is perpetrated by an oppressive government on its citizens.
I also think that people shouldn't say that they can't paint everything with the same brush. So, for example, there's a quote from the British comedian Ricky Gervais where he says he's tired of people saying that's offensive. You should say, I'm offended. Very clear, very specific, because not everyone's going to find the same thing hateful, offensive. So you can't paint it with the same brush, but you can say, I'm offended, and that would be true. Yeah. But you can't just say, no, you can't speak now because that's offensive, because that wouldn't be true either.
That's a great example. That's a great example, because the arts are an example of free speech. And, one of the purposes of art is to challenge the way we view the world, right? And comedy is one way of doing that. And of course, there's literary arts. The book that I wrote probably would be considered, much of what I write in my own book would be considered criminal. But, the arts are a very important aspect of free speech, a very important part of our culture. And so, you set a great example, Paula. And I mean, if comedians can't challenge the way we see the world, I mean, we're going to lose. Imagine a world without comedy, without brilliant, funny people like Ricky Gervais, who brings so much joy and laughter to millions of people. We could lose that.
Yeah, Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, for some of you that know,
Yeah,
been
he's a
great
brilliant guy,
proponent
isn't he?
for
Yeah,
comedians and free speech. He's been speaking about that for
yeah,
years, and he's even spoken recently like this shift and this change is wrong. It's a joke. It's a
yeah.
joke. And he's been, like I said, a great proponent for comedians to stay strong and just tell your joke because again, I can be offended. It's not offensive overall.
And
Yeah.
back in the day, a long, long time ago, the court jester was the only one that could say things to the king
Yes.
in that format and kind of let some of the truth out and not be hung or something else like that.
Yeah.
So that was
so
a
true.
time where we recognized the importance of being able to speak truth to power. And in comedy has always historically been the way to do that.
Yeah, who would think that the clowns of the world are the forefathers of the progenitors of free speech? But that's so true. And musicians are another one. A lot of times, the court musician would write music, would put in song things that might criticize the government, and they could just say, well, it's just a song. But a lot of the early songs, folk songs, if you listen to them, are really, really very critical of what was going on in the world at a time when the government was very oppressive. Maybe we need some really great folk singers to come along in Canada to bail us out of this. We need some Bruce Coburns to come out and sing some songs, but of course maybe they're afraid to, and that might be the point of all this.
Yeah, we had some. So Lindsay
Mhm.
Butler was a good one during COVID. She sang songs about freedom,
Mhm.
and she got dropped by the labels, by the industry, by the
Yeah.
venues. They wouldn't let her, so she got silenced.
Yeah.
There's a few other ones. Greg Arcade, rest in peace. He was another good one. We lost him to brain cancer, but anytime, and he was an award-winning
Yeah.
country music artist. He
Yeah.
actually shot his award as part of his protest against the industry for shutting down conversations around COVID and freedom. But we
Yeah.
had them, but they got canceled, Leighton.
And Ruth Purves
Wow.
Smith as well, just to
Yep.
include her too.
Ruth as well. Yeah, and she's still working hard too.
Yeah. Well, there's a cost. There's a cost of discipleship, isn't there? And this is actually, if you look at the cover of my book, it depicts the assassination of Thomas More. Those who don't know the story of Thomas More might want to check out a wonderful movie that was made in the 1960s. It was called A Man for All Seasons. It tells a story of Thomas More, who was the chancellor. He was like the second in command, almost the prime minister of England at the time. And he was the advisor to King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII, the very storied sort of mercurial king of England. And what happened with Thomas More was, of course, at that time, England was a Catholic country. And Henry VIII, for various reasons, one of which he wanted a divorce, he also wanted to take over papal states in England that were controlled by Rome. And so he broke away from the church in Rome and founded his own church, the Church of England. And of course, the King of England is still the head of the Church of England. But Thomas More was put into a real dilemma where he had to decide between being loyal to the church in Rome or to his king, or more properly, loyal to his God or to his king. And of course, Henry VIII put this to him as an ultimatum. And Thomas More, he chose his faith, and he, knowing that he would lose his head. And so that's why he's on the cover of the book, because he's now the patron saint of lawyers. He's Saint Thomas More. He's also the author of a very misunderstood piece called Utopia, which means no place. but the reason why he's on the cover is because not only because he's the patron saint of lawyers, but because he really epitomizes in a lot of ways the struggle that lawyers and other people like myself are going through in modern Canada, where really we're in a situation where we're being demonized and perhaps even criminalized for exercising our speech, and also for expressing our faith publicly, our Christian faith publicly. So that's why he's on the cover of the book. But he really is an exemplar of the cost that people have to pay, unfortunately, in order to speak the truth in an environment that we live in right now, a milieu where frankly, it's dangerous to do it. Now, that's not a good reason not to do it, but it does discourage many people from doing it because they're afraid, and understandably so. But there is a cost. There is a cost to doing it that all of us who are doing it have to accept, and it can be painful. But that just begs the question of why we're doing it. And if you know why you're doing it, then there really is no other course of action, in my view.
And speaking about standing up and Christianity, with every week that goes by, there's another church gone, burnt down. And Pierre came out just the other day talking about bringing in new laws surrounding hate around the church. He's echoing part of Bill C-9. And my concern there is he's not being opposition to what they're bringing in place. He actually seems to be positioning himself to support Bill C-9 and use Christianity as a way to do that, as a bit of a shield for him to do that. And like I asked, why aren't we enforcing the current laws? There's plenty of laws in place already. 2 smoke bombs got thrown into a Montreal church during a service, Let Us Worship service. And it appears Rebel News found out who that person was. There's a good suspect in place, same glasses, same face, same everything else. But the police in Montreal aren't doing anything about it. So there is an attack. So what are your thoughts on, first, the attack on Christianity to the point where they're burning down churches and shooting children who are praying? And then Polyev, is he positioning himself to support Bill C-9 instead of opposing it?
Well, this is a great question. You put really your finger on the question of the age, I think. Especially in North America. And I would put alongside what Mr. Polyev is saying. And I watched a recent podcast interview he did where he talked about the Charlie Kirk assassination and didn't mention God or faith or Christianity at all, which is really almost astonishing, except when you understand and you lay that alongside, for example, the former leader of the CPC was talking about what's going on in Nigeria. And and really almost disgracefully used an actual genocide that's going on there of Christians in Nigeria as a political weapon to throw rocks at the windows of the Liberal Party of Canada. But if you listen to the speech that he gave in the House of Commons yesterday, again, doesn't mention faith, Christianity, the Bible, or any of that. And I think that what we're seeing with CPC, what's being revealed, Jason, to answer your question, is that the CPC is a party without a soul. They don't really understand conservatism. They don't understand that proper conservative is actually grounded in Christian faith in the Bible. And without that, you don't have any concept of conservatism because you don't understand what you're conserving. And what the CPC are, frankly, are poll chasing liberals. That they will do and say anything to try and bring down this government so that they can have the same power that this government has. And what's really highlighting the reality of this is when you look at what's happening in the United States, because Donald Trump is at the Museum of the Bible, which is a place I really want to visit. He's in the UN, and he's at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And what is he saying? He's saying what you're saying. There's a global attack on Christianity. Christianity is under attack worldwide, and he's going to do something to stop it. And then everyone else in the Trump administration who's speaking publicly, J.D. Vance, Mark Rubio, Pete Hegseth, all of them talking about God, faith, the Bible, quoting scripture, saying that we're in a struggle between good and evil. So right next door in the good old United States, this is what all the public conversation is about. And then when you look at Canada, absurdly, there's no conversation of this publicly whatsoever. And that sounds really bad. However, I actually see this as promising. I think that what we're seeing with Mr. Poilievre and others in his party beginning to talk about Christianity and the attack upon it, I think is a hopeful sign. And I think when some of our political leaders in Canada, and I'm saying this to people like Danielle Smith and others, when they start to begin to talk about God and faith and Christianity and the real good and evil struggle that's going on in the world, I think that's when the tide is really going to turn in Canada, and we will see a change like what is happening in the United States, where they're turning to protection of individual rights and freedoms. They're focusing on protection of the family. Now, they're not perfect. They're just a government. However, compared to what we have in operating in Canada right now, I think most people, especially in Alberta, would see that what's happening there is certainly preferable to what we have, and is more expressive of the will of the people. What we have in Canada right now are governments that really don't care what we say or what we think. And that's a really serious problem when you've got a representative style of government, but then you have governments that operate in a totalitarian fashion. And of course, that goes against the whole concept, everything that's in the Bible. But I think that I think we are going to see, we're going to start to see, especially quote unquote conservative leaders in Canada begin to adopt this lexicon, this revival, this Christian revival that's happening in the United States. I think we're going to see it in Canada. I think it's an irresistible force, and I think we're going to see this more and more. That's my hope. I may be wrong, and you may be right, Jason, that maybe, the CPC is going to continue its current tack, which is to sort of be liberal light. But I can't understand how these people can fail to see how this is a failed strategy. I mean, they're becoming the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters, and I mean, they've lost four elections in 9 years, 3 and 6 years to Trudeau, the most unpopular prime minister in history, and then they lost the last one to a guy who had never even been elected dog catcher anywhere. So if that party can't begin to see that its current strategy is futile, then I can't help them. Even reading my book won't help them.
But it's a good place to start. So maybe it will help open some doors. So if you don't mind, hang out a little bit. We'll have
Sure.
a conversation with our locals community, because we got to end the public side of things.
Mhm.
But hang out for a bit. There's a couple more things I'd like to address with you, Leighton.
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right. So, oops, let me push
What'd
this
you
button.
do?
I pushed the wrong button. There we go. All right. So, public, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Go get Leighton's book, Lies, Laws, and Liberties. You can find it on Amazon. It's really good. It's a bunch of essays that break down what's wrong with society and maybe how we can rethink society and get back
Mhm.
to a consciousness that is good for the family, good for your community, and good for our future.
Yeah.
Let's check that one out. And I do appreciate everybody being with us here today.
Yeah, hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you Monday.
And make sure you take care of yourself. I love you all, and God bless.